really smart kids. That's awesome. So Jesus starts out his calling of these people by saying the time is fulfilled. Or it could be said, now is the right time. Kairos time is happening right now. So Jesus begins calling the disciples by announcing that this is not normal time. This is a different kind of time. Now, some of you have studied this about this enough times to know the difference between Kairos and Chronos, but it never hurts to review. So Chronos time is like chronological, Chronos. It's the time we normally talk about. So it has to do with the clock and the calendar. It's what we mean when we say it's time to go, or we're going to be late, or the meeting is at 7. All of those are Chronos time. But that's not the word that Jesus uses today. Jesus uses the word Kairos. Kairos time is the time we are referring to when we say that things will be different next time around, or those moments when we lose all track of time and a moment seems like it lasts forever, or it's been all day and it seems like only an hour has passed. It's described as that time outside of time. We've all experienced that in one way or another. It's usually at really big moments and events in our lives. And those moments are really important. Those are the moments that when we remember them, we don't just recount the story. It's not just a matter of, oh yeah, last Tuesday we went out for tacos. We remember it in detail, everything about it. We actually relive them to a degree when we enter Kairos time. And those are also the moments of worship and prayer, of life-changing encounters with God and God's messengers. It's the time we step into every time we gather for the sacraments and for fellowship. And so it's this time that Jesus announces when he walks beside the sea and he calls the disciples. It isn't just that Jesus got baptized and he went into the wilderness and now John has been arrested. And so the next logical thing that's going to happen is that he starts calling disciples. But this is a different kind of time. And it's a time for which things have to happen immediately, especially in the Gospel of Mark. We hear immediately over and over again. So in some ways, it seems like the Gospel of Mark is in a hurry, always going to the next place. But in some ways, it's just that Mark understands that in this kind of time, this Kairos time, that the situation is that you can do nothing but act right now. That's our only option. And we all have those times in our lives, and they probably happen more often than we think about. Those times where we have to act immediately and make a decision. So there's little moments of Kairos time when we just very momentarily live in a different kind of time. And then there's the big moments, those life-changing moments. And no matter what we do, the world will be different. As I said, some of them are small and some of them are big. Some of them are reversible and redoable, and some of them are not. So a really little example is a phone ringing. For most people, the younger you get, the less true this is, but for most people, when a phone rings, everything stops and you make a decision. Do I get the phone or do I not get the phone? But there's not an option that you are going to do something. You're going to make a decision immediately. And everything normal has stopped. The same thing happens when you start to hear a little kid scream from the next room. There's a lot of ways that you can respond to that, but I don't know anybody who just is like, oh, did I hear something? Everybody responds. It's one of those moments. If you have a deer, you're driving down the highway and a deer runs out in front of you on the road, it's not normal time anymore. You have to make a decision. It's immediately. Sometimes those moments happen in a little bit larger context of saying, oh, I haven't seen that person in a couple of months, and the last time I saw them, we were really not getting along. Do I choose to reconcile with them today, or do I let this go another couple of months? But in any case, either way, you have to make that decision. You're stepping into a different kind of time. And so we have these moments each day when we're called to choose trust, to choose faith, to choose following, and they happen immediately, over and over again. Faith happens immediately in those Kairos times. It's not that it doesn't grow over time, but those little decisions that we make, are we going to go with trusting God right now, or are we going to go the other way? We're going to go with trusting God, we're going to go the other way. It's faith for the moment. It's in the moment. When I see somebody that I have not been getting along with, do I see Christ in that person, or do I see anger? I have a choice every moment. Do I live out of God's abundance, or do I live out of a sense of scarcity? Do I live my story as part of God's story, or do I try and turn away and write my own little story that doesn't so much intersect with God's story? We always have that choice to make about faithful following in the next moment. And it's always an immediately kind of action. We step out of our normal time for just a second when we make those decisions and we say, which way am I going to go? The deer runs out in front of your car. Am I going to slam on the brakes? Am I going to swerve? Am I going to try and speed up and miss it? What am I going to do? And the same thing happens with our faith decisions. At this moment, right now, immediately, what's our decision now? What's our decision in the next moment? What's our decision next time it happens? This is the way the Gospel of Mark works, is that it keeps pulling us out of Chronos. It keeps pulling us out of this everyday schedule and planning and being tied to our calendars and saying, this is God's moment. Right here, right now, God is calling us in this little tiny way or this really big way. For those of us who've been on this path of following Christ for a while, we know that sometimes making that next step is just, oh, there's the next step. You know, that was an easy decision. And sometimes making that next step kind of feels like jumping off the edge of a cliff. But it's always just the next step. And it's always, what do we do next? And so as we keep getting pulled out of Chronos time, as we keep being asked, do I see Christ in this person? Do I see anger? Do I live out of abundance? Do I live out of scarcity? Do I live my story as part of God's story? Or do I try to write my own little story? How do our lives work? And it all happens immediately. And then the next moment it happens immediately again. So this week, as we go out and we keep getting pulled out of our calendars, as we keep getting pulled out of our clocks and our phones and our alarms and everything that tells us where we need to be going and pulls us into God's time, may you have those moments. May you see them. You're going to have them in any case, but may you see them. And may you be blessed by that. And may you always choose faith for the moment. And may that next step always be the next step that moves you into that immediate faith. Amen.